Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, where today I have a first-time podgoer. Tim Hunt is joining us, and it's super cool to have him on the pod because we've actually followed each other on Instagram for quite some time after meeting at a show, and it's always nice, I find, in bodybuilding when you just meet people and then you follow each other on Instagram and you sort of see each other's journey, and it's really cool to watch you and what you've done in the sport. Is super, super cool.
Thank you. Yes, I think we followed each other for like 3 years now.
Yeah.
And we've never actually met other than that. So it's like when you meet someone and you know that you both sort of worked hard through the years, and you sort of had that mutual respect for each other, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. How long have you actually been bodybuilding for?
So officially, it has been 5 years since I first started my first prep. My first show was in 2018, so 4 years since I did my first show. It's been like a long old journey. Like, I've just loved it. It's been amazing.
Yeah, and how did you first get into it?
So I became a PT in 2016, so 6 years ago now. God, that's a long time. Makes me feel old. So I thought, you know what? I need to inspire people. I need to inspire my clients. If I'm going to be a PT, I need to be the best that there is. So I thought, why not go down the competing route? Because that's going to push me to my limits. And then I understand what it's like to push that hard and take your body to the extreme. So it sort of made me realize what my clients would be going through as well. So I thought, let's give a competition a go. I hired a coach. It was, September 2018 it was. And it was PCA Manchester. So that was when the first timers wasn't around. So I was like going into this with no expectations at all. Like me and my coach were just gliding along into show. I was dying because I just didn't know what to expect. I've never restricted myself before from food or anything like that, or sugar. And I felt awful. Like, I'm not even going to lie. My first prep, I felt awful. So I went into my first show, got on stage, I didn't have any posing lessons or anything like that. And I won. I won the show. I couldn't believe what was happening. And you know how inexperienced I was when it came to me winning. And I just went home after. I didn't know about an overall. I had no idea that there was an overall at the end of the show. I just went home after a win. It was mad. Like, I just didn't know what to expect, like, at all. No one had sort of told me, oh yeah, there's an overall at the end of the show, so if you win, because no one was expecting me to win. Like, me and my coach were just doing it, like almost not casually, but with no expectation whatsoever. So I went into it and I was just like, oh yeah, this is a cool day. Started talking to all the guys. Like, they'd be doing it for like 5-6 years, competing for 5-6 years. I rock up and they're looking at me backstage like, they told me afterwards, because this is how I know this. They were looking at me apparently like, oh my God, this guy is in razor condition. Like, I'm scared of him. Because I wasn't big or anything, but I was just super, super conditioned. I was like 2% body fat, something ridiculous like that. So I went in, got out on stage, wasn't nervous, weirdly. I was just, because there was no expectation. So I was like, oh, I just hit a few poses, like, do what I need to do. And then they were like, yeah, the winner, Tim Hunt. I was like, oh my God, what is happening? I was like, this is amazing. Okay, I'm pretty good at this. Might as well carry it on. So that was my story of my first show.
I guess as well, it's quite an important thing to raise there. If you go into shows with no expectations, it's quite often that people actually do very well because they're not stressed, and we know what stress does to the body, and they're relaxed and they're just like, I'm going to have a good day, and then they can get a really good result, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it feels even better because you put no stress on yourself, put no expectations on yourself. So it's like, if you come out of that show having won, the feeling is just 100 times better because you just weren't expecting it. I always go into my shows without any expectation whatsoever. Like, obviously, I'd like to win. It'd be nice to, but I realize that there are going to be other people there that are potentially much better than me. Okay. I'm not gonna go into a show thinking I'm the best there, So it's even nicer if I do win.
Yeah, because I always say this, you know, if you've done everything for your prep and you've poured all your energies into it, you've nailed it, and then you get to show day and there's someone that's awarded higher than you because the judges decide that they're the winner, someone's got to win, and everyone's poured a lot into this.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, everyone has been on the same journey. Some people you see on stage and you're like, okay, maybe they haven't, you know, worked as hard as someone else because they're not as conditioned, but you don't know their journey. That's the thing. So you can never judge someone else. But what you can do is work harder for next time so you do win, you know, or all you can do is just work harder each show.
Yeah, for sure. And after that first show, was there things that you needed to improve on? Was it muscle mass mainly?
Yeah, just get bigger because it was my first show. So I mean, I built some good muscle. Like, if you look at my shape, then I had a good chest, good abs, hardly any back, hardly any shoulders, and hardly any arms. It was I had them there obviously because I would, and it was also against 10 of the guys, I think. So I must have had something. Yeah, I think it was just packing on size. That's what I needed to do. So what did I do after that? I went to the PCA British finals. It was 5 weeks after my initial show. That 5 weeks, I could tell you now, was hell.
Yeah, I relate completely. Like back-to-back shows, fucking hell. When it's like 3+ weeks, it's like, who even am I?
Yeah. It's horrible. Like, because I've never done it before. So at the end of my show, I was like, give me 20 tubs of ice cream. Give me all the breakfast. Like, I was eating like an absolute slob. Like, I was sitting in my dressing gown every morning, eating cookies and ice cream for breakfast. Like, it's like a crack addict, isn't it? It's like you need that hit of sugar after your show. And I literally, it's not healthy because I ate to the extreme after my show. I was like, you know, not to the point where I was sick. I wasn't actually sick at any point, but I wanted to be. And then I'd go in for more like 3 hours later. It was just, it was just a real sort of mental challenge with the food. So that 5 weeks between show, I did it. It was fine. But literally in the PCA British Finals in 2018, there was like 30 guys on stage.
Yeah.
So I didn't even get a look in, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't big enough. I think Mitch Starr came second that year, and Alexander, I can't remember his name, but he won. And I looked to them two, and I was like, I need to be like those two before I can do anything else. So then I waited only 5 months. I'll say that. I only waited 6 months until my next show. My mate decided it would be a good idea for me to do Body Power 2019 in May. That was in May. So I did the UK UP and the PCA shows at Body Power, and I did really well. And I actually got my legs out for once. So I do men's physique, okay, but I decided to do muscle model in those categories. I was like, why not? My legs are semi-decent. Why not get them out? Anyway, I came third in my muscle model show. And I was buzzing because I'd never got my legs out before. And I was like, oh, I got good legs. Yay. So I was like, yes, get in. And then I think I came second in men's physique. So, and then in PCA, I got an invite to the British finals that year. So I did the shows in May, and then I took some time off until October. PCA British finals in October, I think it was. And then the UK UP British finals as well. Because obviously doing the Body Power, I qualified for both those.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then had a, 5-month gap. And between that time, I did actually put on some good muscle, you know, because I was just in the beginning of my journey, really. So muscle was going on quite easily. Because when you start your journey, you know, when you start bodybuilding properly, that's when you grow the most muscle. You know, it gets harder as the years go on.
It's like that novel stimulus, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So it was October, I think, and then I did the British finals PCA. Looked pretty good, but I just didn't bring that razor condition that I bought the year before. So I didn't place, unfortunately, in the British finals. UK UP, however, what did I do? I did second in muscle model this time, so even better. Got my pro card in UK UP, got a big ass trophy. It was like
their trophies are super good.
Oh, they were huge, the trophies. I was like, yes, I was so happy with it. And then got third in men's physique for UKUP and a pro card in that. So I'm a pro in UKUP, which is great. Obviously, ultimately, I want to be a pro in IFBB. Like, that's my dream. So yeah, that was 2019. And then I had a year out then, I think. Yeah, I had a year out because it was lockdown. So lockdown came around in April 2020. And I decided, because like the area I lived in had really nice walks. So I just went for runs every day and I became this cardio king. I was like, who even am I? I don't even enjoy
Who are
cardio.
you? I'm no longer Tim.
Yeah. Like, I was like, Tim Cardio Hunt.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah. I started tracking my runs and everything. I was like, what is this? I don't even know who I am. Yeah, so I did some running and stuff, got into that, and then I decided, no, I'm going to get some equipment. So my mate lent very, very nicely, very kind guy, lent me some really good kit so I could have a little gym in my conservatory. And I just kept training every day. You know, I kept my training split. I kept everything going. And it was a weird vibe because it's like you're doing it at home. And it's not the same. But like I set up my sound system in the conservatory, made it into a little home gym, which was only this big, you know. I could only just about fit it. But it was a good time because it really sort of made you appreciate everything. You know, you take these things, you take the gym for granted. You do. Like, you always expect it to be there, available for you to use. So when it doesn't become available for you to use, you need to use your mind a bit. You need to step out of your comfort zone. You need to borrow equipment, whatever, beg, borrow, steal. So yeah, I got into the conservatory gym, the home gym, and it was funny actually because that year I wasn't planning on competing. So I had this mate who was going to do two bros in October. And me, I'm thinking, I'm not good enough for two bros. You know, that was my mindset. I was like, I needed another couple of years before two bros.
Same.
So I was like, you know what, mate? He was going to the show on his own. And I was like, you know what, mate? I'll come with you. I'm in condition. Like, I'll compete. So around that time, I also decided to do, what was it? Barbarian Classic and NFM. So I did Barbarian Classic, which was IBFF, I think the federation was. They're big in South Africa, but they had a show over here. So I did that, and then I did NFM. So that was in October, I think, and then did really well in them. Like, I got my pro card, pro status in NFM. Once again, I did muscle model, so I had my legs out, did really well, and then what did I do? So yeah, then they announced that they were locking down again in November. So lockdown was on November the 6th, I think, if I believe. It was, 2020. And Two Bros moved their show forward so they could accommodate the athletes, so they could do their final show. So I think that was November the 5th. So I said to my mate, right, I'll come and do the show with you because you're on your own. Didn't expect anything from it. Went to my very first Two Bros show and I won my category and then I won the overall.
Fucking hell.
No, what the fuck? This is mad. I was not expecting that whatsoever. I literally rocked up. Like, I'd already done two shows like the week before. So I was in, great condition. I was in razor condition. So that really played to my advantage. The funny thing is with Two Bros, I had no idea. This is my own fault because I'm just stupid, but I did not research the posing. And literally, I think it was 3 days before, I found out that Two Bros is just front and back. Because I've been so used to these other federations that want quarter turns.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you serious? That's easy. I was delighted. So I went on the Two Bros show, hit my poses front and back, and ended up winning the overall. I could not believe what was happening. I'd won a sword, for fuck's sake.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
I know, it was mad. So yeah, I won a sword in 2020, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, I actually started. I don't know what happened, but like, I started feeling confident in the fact that maybe I could do this. Maybe I can actually take this further, one step further. Because when you win an overall at Two Bros, it does give you the confidence, because obviously Two Bros is, the way to the IFBB. So that's the way to your pro card. So I thought, well, if I'm winning overalls at the Two Bros, then maybe I can get my pro card eventually. I actually started feeling that. I felt that belief. But again, no pressure on myself. Like, I don't do that. I don't put pressure on myself. I don't stress. I just do the required, and then see what happens. So then what do I do? So last year, 21. So I prepped for, it was Two Bros. I did one of the regionals, so I could qualify for the Arnold's and the Amateur Olympia.
Yeah.
So this was the big year for me. Like, this was when I decided to step it up a notch. I was like, right, let's get serious now. I can obviously do this. Let's pack on some size. So hired a good coach, and then, well, I'll say it, like, hiring a coach is very personal to you. It's whether you can work with that person or not. Okay, so I feel having a coach is like, if you can work with that person, if you can have a personal relationship with that person, it will work great. Because you can feel open enough to tell them stuff, and when you've cheated on your diet, when you've not done your steps, when you've not done your cardio, whatever. If you've done anything negative, you can feel you can approach them, and then sort of be honest with them. So yeah, I hired a coach that I felt I could be honest with, and then so we went through a bulking phase in 2021, pretty hard bulking phase, and I ended up, by the time stage came around towards the end of the year, it was September, I'd actually put on 5 kilograms of lean muscle in a year. So for me, that was huge. I was like, wow, that's cool. So September, I did the Two Bros regional and won the overall again. Yeah.
I can't make this up.
I know, literally. I was like, oh, my second Two Bros show. Maybe the first was a fluke, And then, got on stage. It was the JT Grand Prix, September 21 last year. And stepped up there against some really good guys. Like, I was seriously not thinking I was going to win that show at all. I was like, oh, well, Michael and Dan look better than me, so one of them will win. And then they called me for the overall. I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's mad. I was like, yeah, it was just mad. And you can see my reaction, because they I've got a video of the reaction. It's just me, like, on my knees, like, oh my God, I can't believe
I love that, though. It's so organic, isn't it?
Oh, massively, massively. Like, it's just like that feeling. Yeah. You can't beat the feeling of being best in show.
Yeah.
You have the best physique on that stage. Like, there's no better feeling. Without, like, I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but that's a great feeling. That feeling doesn't top. It's amazing, amazing. So so then I went on to do the Arnold's last year. That was a massive show. Like, it was the first UK Arnold's that had ever happened, and I was buzzing for it. Like, a lot of people get nervous for stage and stuff, but I was just excited. Like, I couldn't wait to step out in front of that many thousands of people. Like, it was just an insane feeling when it happened as well. The stage was absolutely huge. It was like, this is cool. I felt like minuscule on that stage. It was a really, really good atmosphere. All the lads backstage I knew, so we were having a good crack backstage. It was all relaxed. It was a great feeling. Really well organised. So got up on that stage, and I came 4th out of 8. I think 8 were in my category. And I came fourth in that. And that's all I wanted. You know, I just wanted an Arnold's medal. Like, I wasn't expecting to win at all on that, because that was a huge, huge stage. And John Collins, who won my category, my height class, sorry, he went on to win his pro card in that show. So I was up against some good guys. So I was just delighted that I got an Arnold's medal, you know. I felt like a little kid. I got an Arnold's medal. It's amazing. So then I went on to do the Amateur Olympia in Denmark. So flew all the way to Denmark, and I thought, I'm going to make, you know, a little trip out of this. This is really cool. I felt like a little international athlete, you know.
It's so cool though, isn't it? Like competing internationally, you're literally buzzing because you're like, I'm representing Great Britain.
Yeah, it's mad. It's like a mad feeling. I thought, you know what, 3 years ago, I did not think I would be here doing the amateur in Denmark. Like, yeah, it was crazy. I knew a couple of guys that were going as well, so that was nice. Like, we all got to chill backstage there with Dan and Nathan. Like, that was really cool. And again, just the chilled atmosphere, well organized and that. I ended up coming fifth on that stage, but again, I had no expectations. So I didn't go into that show expecting first. You know what I mean? Like, I was against the best in the world that day. Like, they flew from all over the world to that show because it's the Amateur Olympia, you know? Everyone wants to do it. So yeah, some of the guys in that show were just really, really good. Like, I couldn't stand up next to them, but I did. And in a class of, I think it was 12 in that class, I came fifth. Like, I was absolutely buzzing with that. You know, a lot of people would be really unhappy with that position, but I was like, I've got an Amateur Olympia medal. Like, this is so cool. I'm just collecting medals now. It's wicked.
I think that's awesome for the listeners as well to realize, you know, if it's your journey and if it's an achievement for you. I think sometimes bodybuilding can get a little bit in that gray area of like people winning shows and then they win and they win and they win and they expect to win all the time, but it's not like that in this sport, is it?
Not at all. Not at all. You have to be humble in the sport, else you will be constantly disappointed, because
100%.
it's up to the judges on the day. You can do as much work as possible, and you can just take 2 grams less of salt on that day, and you'll be watery. Like, there's just silly little things like that that could really affect how you look. And you could even be the most conditioned in that show. If the judges don't like the look of you, you're not going to win. So you've got to go into that show not expecting anything, because if you put your whole life on the line for that show and you don't win, what have you come away with? There's you know, it's nice having a passion for it, but you've got to wind it back a bit when you come into show, because you could not win that show. And then, you know, the amount of guys I've seen come off stage angry and so disappointed, holding their head down and stuff. It's like, and I'm just there like, it is what it is. You know, that's me personally though. You know, everyone has a different journey. So I just say to anyone that wants to compete, don't have expectations in it, because the judges will want something different every time. I mean, you just have to look at men's physique. You got to see how it's developed in the last 5 years alone.
Yeah, for sure.
So they're pretty much classic bodybuilders in shorts. That's what men's physique is these days. You look at Olympia this weekend that's coming up. You look at the men's physique guys there. They are huge. They're huge. They've got like the same size shoulders as classic physique guys. They're massive. The sport is getting bigger. Yeah. They did say this year that they were looking at the smaller guys, the more conditioned guys, but it's just on the day. It's not, you know, you got to have a perfect balance of everything.
Yeah, and of course you've got to trust your coach as well, because you know when you get to that point where your mind is just, you're in this constant warp of, I don't look good enough, oh, I look all right today, the next day, oh no, I don't know if I'm going to be ready. And then, like you say, like 2 grams of salt could be the impact of you potentially placing or not placing, and it's mental, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, luckily enough, I've managed to come in condition for most of my shows, but that's because of the work I've done leading up to that, you know. And I think a big part of it is not feeling stressed. because obviously your body holds a lot of stress when it releases cortisol, so holds a lot of water when you're stressed. You know, you've got cortisol running around your body. That's not good. It's gonna hold your water. And like your water balancing and salt balancing, electrolyte balancing is all gonna affect your body in some way. So yeah, you have got to trust your coach, absolutely. Like, and you've got to also discuss it with your coach. You know, if you go in blindly with it and just listening to everything your coach says, that's fine. But you need to, if you don't agree with something and maybe you think that you got to, you know, your body's doing something in a certain way, then you've got to communicate that with your coach 100%.
100%.
So I did that in 2020 when I won my first 2 Bros overall. So my coach told me to cut water, which is fine. That was the usual protocol, nothing wrong with that. But I'd been sipping on water all day on the day before. And I was razor sharp. Like, you could see veins in my abs everywhere. Like, there was not one single bit of fat on me. And I was like, I communicated this to him. And I said, do you mind if I, you know, keep sipping the water? Because I think it'll keep that balance. And he said, yeah, go for it. Like, if that's how you feel, like, you're looking like this, so yeah, let's do that. And you just got to be 100% honest with your coach and communicate that, because maybe if I did cut my water, maybe I wouldn't have come through with that razor sharp condition. You know, I would have been maybe a little bit watery. So you know, who knows? But definitely communicate with your coach. You have to be 100% honest with them for it to work.
Yeah, for sure. What are your next steps now? Are you competing next year?
Yes. So
the return.
The return of the hunt. So end of March, I'm aiming for the 2 Bros show. I'm starting prep start of January. This year I haven't held onto a lot of fat. So, you know, I was fatter last year. It took me about 15 weeks to get to peak last year. So this year I'm a lot leaner than I was last year, so it won't take me as long. So end of March is what I'm aiming for. You know, play it. That'll be a 2 Bros regional. So I'll see how I look. If I'm good enough, then I'll get on stage, do the regional, and then pro qualifier in April. I think it's the Joe Wider. So I'll go on to do that, you know, and just see how I do. Like, again, I've got no expectations. I'd love to get my pro card next year. Like, it'd be amazing. It'd be a dream. But who knows? Like, who knows who I'll be up against? I know that some of the guys that are doing the one in April, the pro qualifier. So it'll be very interesting. But I think I'll probably go abroad after that and compete abroad, because it's just a great experience competing abroad. Like,
yeah, honestly, like, I say this to everyone. When I went over to Mexico to compete for WABA, like, it was so cool, because I don't know about your experience, but all of the athletes were staying in the same hotel. So, like, all the tanning and everything were at the hotel, and you'd be walking around and there's just bodybuilders everywhere. And like, the day after the show, everyone's at the all-you-can-eat breakfast, and you can imagine the sights. You just look round and you're surrounded by, like, your people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you're all in the same circle, aren't you? You know each other. Like, and even if you don't know each other, you can just go up to them and talk about, how's your tan?
Like such random things.
Yeah. It's like, how many grams of carbs did you have? Did you have sweets? Like, how much water did you have? Like, it's just
what
conversation.
Sweets are you having?
It's just conversation that regular people would never have. Like, it's just such a unique world, and it's like, it's cool because it's obviously, I love the science side of things, like how your body can be so affected by little changes and stuff. And I absolutely love that. You know, being a coach myself, I have to tell people, you know, how to implement certain things and you know, for shows. And it's just a really cool way of working. Like, you're almost experimenting on your own body. And the changes you see over the like 12 months, it's just crazy. And then even the changes you see over a week for like peak week and stuff like that, yeah, it gets you excited. Like, if you can physically see your body changing before your eyes, like, that's just a mad feeling. Like, who, you know, it's well, probably a lot of people. Probably a lot of normal.
I definitely find, in my experience of coaching full time now, like you gain respect from being able to, you know, adhere to a prep, sharing that, and then competing in itself, let alone, you know, if you do well and you gain accolades in the sport, people almost buy into your journey and see that you are committed and then respect you for that.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and that's why, you know, I've had people come to me that want to get on stage, that I put on stage, because they know my journey and they know what I've been through, and sort of seen how well I've done, and they respect that, you know, what you're doing, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, I've had what have I had, three people on stage this year, and it has been an amazing feeling to go from being an athlete to being a coach, getting people on stage. It's like that natural transition, isn't it? So and they can't thank me enough. Like, it's a weird feeling almost, because you're potentially changing someone's mindset completely towards how they feel about themselves and their self-confidence and their belief.
Mm-hmm.
Involved.
I think that as well, you know, us having coaches ourselves, like it almost sets that standard of, you know, what we value from a coach ourselves. We invest in ourselves, even though, you know, we could probably go, okay, I'll prep myself, or, you know, do off season myself. But then having been coached ourselves, it's showing that we're investing in ourselves as well. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you have, you know, when you're in a prep particular and things like peak week and things, you need that second eye.
Yeah, absolutely, you do. Yeah, 100%. Like, I tried to coach myself in 2019.
Yeah.
And I had a mate helping me, and it just wasn't the same. Like, it's just not the same without a coach. Like,
No.
you need that reassurance. You need that second pair of eyes. Like, you need someone to just say, yeah, you're doing well. You're doing all right.
Yeah.
Carry on. Like, because during prep, like, you will feel like crap. You'll feel like shit. There's no two ways about it. And if you don't, you're not doing it right.
Yeah,
That's what.
sure. Like, and I remember like checking calls with my coach, and like I get off the phone and then like have a prep cry because, you know, he'd really empowered me and said how well I'm doing. And then I look back at my photos and I'm like, oh, maybe I am on track. And then you start crying, and like there's so much that comes from having a coach, because it's like you say, some weeks it's just you're doing what you need to do, you're doing really well, that's enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
you're doing your cardio, you're eating your food, and that's all you need to be doing. Like, your brain, you're sitting there thinking a million things. Like, I'm not good enough for this. Like, you just doubt yourself so much sometimes, and you feel just like you just want to lie down and just go to sleep. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you want to stay in bed. You know, you don't want to get up at 6 a.m. You don't want to do your cardio, stuff like that. But having that coach there to just give you the thumbs up and be like, mate, you look amazing. Like, that's what you need, that little bit of confidence.
Honestly.
So, yeah, it's just mad how much of a difference it makes.
Mm.
So, and obviously, you know, like coaching yourself, you have that from friends and stuff, but it doesn't feel the same. You know, having it from friends is great. It's fantastic. That's what, you know, friends should do. They should build you up. They should make you feel good. But having it from a coach that has been there, done that with many other people, that's when you know that you're doing well, because that's what they do. They coach people to look a certain way, and if you can get their approval, that's what you're working for almost. It's
Yeah.
like it's almost like a child of getting the approval of a parent.
It is though, like, and your coach become like my coach before Tom, and I'm being coached by Tom now. Like, they become your trusted person, your friend, almost like your family. And when I had a gap between them, it was like 2 months. I literally felt like a lost child.
Yeah, yeah,
I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, even though I did. I'm like, there's no one to check in with, and you're in this like abyss.
yeah, yeah, 100%. It's a weird place to be when you haven't got a coach. Like, I saying that, I mean, I haven't had a coach this year,
Yeah.
but that's because I've felt confident enough to prep myself this year. I've been bulking, so, you know, yeah, there have been outside influences that have sort of put me off track a bit. Ultimately, I've done really well on my own this year, but for my cut, I will hire a coach, because You know, yes, I know exactly what I'm doing. Like I've done it many times before. I've done it for 4 years now, been in shows. So I know what I'm doing, but I need that accountability. I
Honestly.
need someone to just send photos to, you know, to say, yeah, you're doing well. Like I just need that, you know, because when you're cutting, you need to be on it 100% and you can't slip.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I've often thought, like, could I potentially prep myself? Because I've prepped like 7 times now. And then like every time I get to that, especially that tail end of prep, I'm like, I'm literally batshit crazy.
yeah, yeah,
I'm like, nothing is normal in this prep because I pushed so hard because it was 2 bros and I was trying to bring all the shreds. Like it got to the point where there was times where I couldn't string a sentence together. And you know, when you're like, you feel like your sanity is slipping away.
yeah. I remember when I was so I was PTing and I literally couldn't bend down to pick up a weight for someone. I was absolutely fucked. Like, and I felt like that for about 3 weeks straight before my show. And that's a horrible feeling. But as soon as your coach comes to you and says, right, we're doing this, you're looking great, like, let's keep going. It's like, yeah, I want to keep going. Let's go. And then a day later, you're dead again. But
Yeah. I also find it's such a nice feeling to have, you know, leading a busy lifestyle and having your training, your macros, and everything set to the letter, as it were. Like, I can't imagine trying to pour time into that as well as everything else that's part of life. I just like to see my plan, execute it, and
yeah,
know what I'm doing. I don't want to have to do that as well. It's almost like a nice privilege, and it's so important to be able to, I guess, have that objective eye as well, because I certainly wouldn't do some of the exercises that are in my plan potentially because I'd preference other ones because I like them more, but it's not always about that.
no, it's not. So that's the most important thing about having a coach. It takes all the thought process out of it for you.
Yeah.
Like you literally, they're your brain almost, you know? And it's like, right, you told me to do this. It's so good if you're a disciplined person. If you're
Sure.
you're a robot on prep, like it is so easy to just have a coach give you the plan and be like, right, I'm doing this. Yeah, sound. Thank you. And then you don't have to think about anything. You don't have to stress about it. Like, should I be eating this many grams of chicken? Should I be eating this many grams of rice? Like, what, you know, it's a bit more sort of trial, like it's a bit more experimenting if you do prepping yourself, isn't it? If you're coaching yourself. So with a coach, obviously they'll look at you and be like, right, we'll give you this much more carbs or whatever. So it just takes the thought process out of it for you, and it's so nice. It's almost relaxing, like having someone there telling you what to do. It's
Yeah.
just and you pay for that privilege, yeah, of course you do, but that's, you know, what they're there for. You take the thought process out of it and stress potentially. So it's great.
Yeah, I find as well, you know, previously there's the first couple of seasons in particular, I would have the sort of instinct to overtrain and run myself into the ground and be like a magpie, you know, shiny object syndrome. Oh, that's how I'm going to build my glutes by doing 20 different exercises and being in the gym for 3 hours. And it's not the case. So sometimes with people like ourselves that want to overachieve, you need someone to actually rein you in rather than tell you to do more.
100%. Like I was training 6 times a week. I was just going crazy with it, and I know now that's not the thing to do, especially during a cut, because you'll just burn yourself out, run yourself down. And yeah, having the coach to tell you to, right, let's have a rest day now. That's, you know, that's great because you don't want to rest as an
Yeah.
athlete. That's the last thing you want to do.
Yeah.
You come to a rest day, like there's plenty of memes on it, you know, like it's just like, what do I do on rest day?
This is boring.
Yeah, you're just like crying in the corner because you can't lift weights. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. Do you prioritize certain things for recovery, especially in a prep?
sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Like I make sure that I'm in bed by a certain time, make sure that I'm getting 7, 8 hours, and yeah, just ensure that I'm doing that really, because people don't realize the importance of sleep. Like they just don't. So when I realized the importance of it, which is only like when I started bodybuilding, I have made sure that I do get that sleep, you know. And if it's broken or anything, or if I'm feeling absolutely fucked the next day, I'll consider having a rest day, or I will communicate that with my coach. Like, should I, you know? So yeah, rest, sleep is like number one recovery. Yeah, like yeah. If you're not getting, I remember when I was on my first prep, I was hardly getting any sleep at all. I was, oh God, you know what I was doing? I was getting up at 3 a.m. and making sugar-free jelly.
Yeah, because, I've done stuff like that.
Yeah, I just didn't know what to do with myself. I was so hungry. I was starving in the middle of the night, couldn't sleep because of it. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So I just sneaked down and made some sugar-free jelly. And it was...
Honestly, you look back and you think, fucking hell, I was nuts.
Yeah, you do. Like, the things you do during a prep, during bodybuilding, are not normal. They're just not. It's like, it's almost like you've got an eating disorder. Like, it is. It's literally, we joke about it, but seriously, it is like we have an eating disorder. Like,
I've said this on the pod before. It's almost like an eating disorder covered up as a sport in some respects, in regards to, you know, it enables control and you can become very neurotic. And I speak from experience in my own journey. Like, I was verging on, if I didn't have a coach, I was verging on a proper eating disorder.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's you sort of don't think about it at the time because you're just doing what your coach says, but that is hard to get out of when you come out of prep, because me personally, I go completely the opposite way. Like, on my first season especially, I went completely the opposite way. I ate everything in sight, and like, I wasn't making myself sicker. There was only one time I was sick from it, like, over it. But I was like, oh shit, I feel like a bulimic right now. Like, this is not healthy at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you don't think about it too much, it's not a problem. But, you know, people that have eating disorders already, you know, there are a lot of people that do bodybuilding that have eating disorders anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a difficult subject to approach. But ultimately, I think bodybuilding is kind of can be a good thing or a bad thing with it, because it allows you to almost control it. If you know that you've got to eat a certain amount a day, that's going to be a head fuck for you if you've got an eating disorder. Yeah. But you know you've got to eat it, and you know to get to this place, you've got to eat that. Like, I know people that have gone onto a bulk who have been anorexic in the past, and the bulk to them is like mind blowing. They don't want to eat those calories. Like, what the fuck? But they know they have to do it. So in a way, it can be a good thing, because it makes you get out of that frame of mind a little. So it can be sort of stepping stones towards maybe recovery. You know, I don't know any examples of people that have recovered from eating disorders from bodybuilding, but yeah, it can be a two-way street, really. It's like right, it's good in the sense that you can stay on that track and maybe go into a bulk and get away from your anorexic mindset. I don't know, you know, or it can be, you know, a bad thing where you're just controlling your food so much that it becomes mental stress. You know, you go, oh no, shit, I haven't eaten in 4 hours, shit, like, and you haven't got anywhere to eat, you haven't got any, and you know, maybe you're traveling or something like that. And then you're stressed because you haven't got that food to hand, you know. So it can cause stress. So yeah, it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. Like,
and like you say there, like off the back of a show, I've worked with people that have done, you know, quite hard diet to then go into a growth phase where, you know, the first few months could be just repairing their relationship with food and themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's it. It's the relationship that you have with food that's so important. Like, as normal, you know, human beings that don't bodybuild, I'm saying normal, you know what I mean?
Normal is.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have a relationship with food, you know. Yeah, we can love food, we can enjoy it, we can go out to eat, whatever, but we don't have that I have got to eat every 3 hours. I have got to eat this, this, and this. You know, because that's the relation. That becomes a relationship then. And it, yeah, as I say, it can be healthy, it can be unhealthy. It just depends on your mindset. Personally, I absolutely love it. Like, I love having that structure in my life. I know that I've got to eat this at this time, whatever. If I miss it, it doesn't stress me out. Like, it's fine. I'm not a stressful person.
Yeah.
I'll just take things as they come. So I will just eat that food. If I miss it, like an hour later, it's not a problem for me. I'll just eat it. Like, it's not a problem. But yeah, that relationship with food is so important when it comes to bodybuilding. Like, you have to 100% have that relationship with food, because that's the most important thing. I've had multiple guys, like young kids, come up to me at the gym and be like, how do I grow? I've been training for a year. How do I get bigger? And like, what calories are you on? I don't know. Oh, well, there you go then. Like, that's why, because you're not tracking your food. You're not eating, essentially. You know, you might be thinking that you're eating enough, but you're not, because you're not growing. So yeah, it's like, food is 100% the most important thing in bodybuilding. You know, that'll be clear cut to all bodybuilders that are listening to this, but anyone that's thinking about going into bodybuilding or doing a show or anything, your food has got to be on point 100%, even more so than your training, because you can afford to miss a day of training. All that will happen is your body will repair more. Yeah. But you can't afford to miss a day of eating. Like, you know, whatever your goal, whether you're cutting or growing, if you miss food, it's going to be bad in both senses. So, and equally, like, I always say to my clients, like, if you're gonna have a cheat meal, if you're gonna overeat, you know, please tell me that, because we can just implement some extra cardio to counterbalance it, because it's all about calories in versus calories out. You know,
you can shave some calories off the day after, or, you know, there's so many things you can do if you're honest.
Yeah, that's it. But if someone's on a growth phase and they miss the food, you know, maybe they're doing cardio as well, whatever, small amount of cardio, then they're not going to put on that weight. You know, that food's going to be missed. So it's really important to have that relationship with food, and to respect that food is the most important thing.
I don't know about you, but I actually find prep easier.
Yeah.
In the sense of, like, everything's so tunnel vision. Like, each day you eat pretty much the same thing, same sort of time, train, do your thing, and obviously the tail end you feel, like you said earlier, pretty shit.
Yeah.
But like, you're in this tunnel vision, and then I find sometimes, like you mentioned earlier, after your first show, like I did that my first couple of seasons, went absolutely apeshit with food. Like, it was terrible. I wasn't sick, but it was close to. And then, like you said, 3 hours later, I'm like, oh, what should I have to eat? And it's like, it's absolutely mental. And I find sometimes having the freedom even harder, but I don't know about you, it's got easier the more I've done it.
100%. Yeah. My first show was awful afterwards. Like, I just felt horrible. I put on 2 stone in 3 days. Like, that's how bad it was. So
it's mental, because your hunger hormone is in the gutter, your hormones are in the gutter, the ghrelin effect, like, you've had your goal removed, you're like, well, I might as well eat. But you forget that food is always going to be there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I put on that much weight and I felt I couldn't breathe. Like, my breathing was labored.
Yeah.
My fingers and toes were like wobbling almost, like, because of the water retention in them. And I just looked so bloated, my face bloated up. Like, it was awful. Like, I don't ever want to feel that again. So every year I've made sure that I don't do that ever since. So yeah, I've managed to control my food afterwards. And now, so last year, after my prep, wasn't very hungry at all. Like, and I didn't force it either. You know, so I've learned that discipline of not going in and eating absolutely everything under the sun after my show, because also your stomach shrank as well. I don't think people realize that your stomach actually shrinks to like minuscule, because you're putting in hardly any food, you know, for weeks. So you can go and actually have really bad stomach problems after that. Like if you go and just force feed yourself pretty much, because your stomach's just not stretched for it, you know. So you will have pains like you've never felt before in your stomach. Like, yeah, it's mad.
And you get that
But
Ethiopian belly, don't you?
yeah, it's like, it's funny because you look like a teenage mutant ninja turtle, because
It's honestly so weird.
you got abs and then you put a load of food in it, it just becomes this big bloated like ab. It's really weird.
It's so weird, and it's so uncomfortable, isn't it? Like you said about labor breathing, I remember the first couple of times I did overeat, like I couldn't sleep because I couldn't breathe.
Yeah, it's like sleep apnea almost. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, really strange feeling. Like I would never overeat again after a show. I'll go and enjoy like a pizza or whatever, just a controlled meal, but I won't shove in. Like I've actually, I don't like sugar anymore. Weirdly, I mean, whether I will this prep coming up, but last year I wasn't bothered about sugar at all. Like
Were
because
you on
I've,
the savory vibe?
yeah, massively salt. Give me all the salt.
Yeah, I
Like
love salt.
I love it. It's wicked. So yeah, I'd have savoury over sweet any day of the week. Give me a dessert on prep, and I'm like, no, I'm not bothered about it. I'd rather have all the sweeteners, you know, because that's what I'm used to now. So yeah, like I definitely find prep easier though, 100%, rather than the growing phase. The growing phase is so hard because
Yeah.
you simply you have to keep on top of it so much, and you have to eat so much food to grow more than
Yeah.
you use. You know? So it is much harder for me. I agree with you on that completely. Like when I come to cutting, it's just so much easier. Like I
Of
have to be
course, you know, watching your body change as well, that is a mind warp in itself, isn't it?
absolutely 100%. Like you see new like shreds coming through, and you're like, this is awesome. I want more. Like it just keeps spurring you on, you know. But when you're in a growth phase, obviously you don't see those shreds, you know, and you can't necessarily see yourself getting bigger, you know. I mean, it's just like it's why you have to take check-in photos every week, but you can't see it because the definition just goes in your body, so you can't see yourself growing that much. So it is a bit of a mind fuck, really,
Yeah.
because you just have to go on the scales and just, you know, hope for the best. But even then, like water retention, everything, it might not even be muscle that you're putting on. So it's
Yeah.
a mind fuck. Like it really is.
Having a coach in this instance as well, like that's why, you know, a lot of people prep and then they either sack off the coach, or I've heard of some coaches that almost sack off the client once the prep's done, depending on how well they've done, and all these horror stories. But there's so much merit in, you know, especially first timers. We get a lot of first timers listening to the pod. It's so important to have that accountability and that help with the reverse out, you know, like yourself, you've done it, you know, quite a few times now. You're a coach yourself and you've managed your off season, but it is tricky territory, and to have those accountability check-ins every week, and, you know, someone looking at your physique and knowing, actually, you know, you're holding a bit of water this week, we're not going to move things, we're going to see how it settles. Giving you that help throughout the off season is super important as well.
Yeah, massively. I grew most when I had it was Nick Edgerton last year.
Yeah.
That's what most, because I didn't during my off season. So
Yeah.
it was just, you know, I think the most important thing, it's stupid because for personal reasons I haven't had a coach this year for my off season.
Yeah.
But last year I had Nick, and he really forced me to eat. Like, you know, I felt this accountability to him. I needed to check in with him every week. I needed to see that progress, you know. So I mean, I did look like a bit of a toad by the end of it.
Is it fluffy? In inverted commas.
That word we like to use, fluffy.
Oh God.
Yeah, so I look like a big fluffy teddy bear by the end of it. But it grew me the muscle underneath, like, and you know, it took 16 weeks to get it off, but it was there, and I grew 5 kg of muscle. Like, you know, who doesn't want that? So, yeah, any first timers listening out there, just make sure that you do really push yourself in your off season, because that's when you grow. You know, people don't tend to grow during the cut, and if you push yourself in your off season, you're gonna make a lot more progress than if you were to push yourself harder in the cut. So make sure that you do either hire a coach in off season, or you are completely on it 100% off season. Like That's the way to do it. Your off season is your opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's just a lot easier to miss things in off season because you feel more relaxed because you haven't got that show coming up, you know. But 100%, if you focus on your food, your training, your off season, you will grow. 100%.
Yeah, and it's so important to get that message across as well. You know, it is hard to push up. Like, I'm talking from personal experience and working with clients, you know, that body dysmorphic state. I'm only 4 kg up from stage weight at the moment, but I'm already like, you know, striking poses and looking and thinking, right, am I getting too much fat here? And all of these things that go through your mind, because it's natural to have that. And my coach is like, your condition's holding really well and you can see muscle coming on. And I'm like in this period where it's like, come on, accept that you need to push up, you need to get healthy again. But it is hard. It's very hard.
So hard when you're used to being shredded. The hardest thing is not being shredded. So
and it goes like very quickly.
Very quickly, like extremely. I mean, I managed to hold my condition pretty well last year after show, but as soon as I took my foot off the pedal, so to speak, it went. Like it just went. And that was within. That was only about 2 weeks of having my foot off the pedal, you know. So yeah, it's when I went on holiday in July. I kept up to an extent. I kept my training up, but I wasn't eating as much as I usually would. So I became flat and fat on me, so I looked like shit. So yeah, as soon as you take your foot off the pedal, that's it. You need to get back on, 100%.
What would your advice be for people sort of when they've ended their season that evening or, you know, the next day? Would you always encourage, you know, having something off plan, but keeping it something that's a nice palate experience?
I give my clients 2 days off after. Yeah, so 2 days, relax your mind, enjoy your time with your friends and family, have that food, just go do whatever you want to do. After 2 days, back on it. Yeah, it's just you have to have that accountability after show. Like, else you'll just lose yourself. You lose your mind because you're not completely shredded anymore. You know, you're not getting the food in you're supposed to be getting in. So yeah, 2 days, that won't do any damage. 2 days will not do anything. You can't get fat in 2 days.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Even though your mind is telling you, oh my God, can I eat this? Like, it's really weird. I don't know about you as well. Like, I find on the tail end of a prep, I'm sort of starting to think, okay, it's going to be nice to go for X meal and have, you know, different foods. And then it gets to it and it's the day after the show and I'm like, oh God, I've got this freedom. I don't know if I actually want those things. And it's really, really strange.
Yeah, I'm not bothered about it anymore. Like, I'll go. You know what it is? It's the freedom to go out with your friends and family.
Yes,
And
amen.
it's that freedom in your mind. That's what it is. It's not the actual food itself for me. Like, for me personally, I know it is for a lot of people, but for me personally, it's just being able to do what I want. Like, I feel free. It's like almost like you've been freed from prison.
I love this. Like, this is so gold, Tim, because it's so important to nourish time and memories with friends and family. Like, it's so nice to just those people that have seen you, like my mum in particular, I always talk about on the pod. She sees me go through these preps and you can see the concern in her eyes. Like, it actually almost upsets me. And to just go around there the other day and I had a blueberry muffin that she brought me and I could track it. And it was like, she was looking at me like, is it nice? And you could see she was so happy. And it's little things like that. It's so small, but means quite a lot to other people as well.
It does. It does. When they're used to you being so regimented and disciplined and stuff, it's just so nice for them to be like, oh my God, you can come out for a meal with us. That's amazing. Like, where should we go? It's just such an exciting. It literally is a really exciting time for me. Like, after show,
it's like when people watch you eat for the first time, they're like, are you allowed that? And I'm like, well, I hope so, because it's in my mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yes, I'm allowed it because I'm eating it. So yeah. I think people, they don't realize what, especially after their first show, they don't have a clue what they're going to feel like. But I think, you know, social media especially has made it so, right, you've got to choose this one meal after your show. What are you going to eat? You know, and then people like filming themselves eating this cookie or whatever after show, and it's just you can see the joy on their face. Like, it's just such a amazing time, and that is because you've done 12, 20 weeks, whatever, of just not doing that. So you've had that discipline. So this is almost your reward. It's like a reward basis, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, right, go through the 12 weeks of prep, get on stage, come off stage, and here's your reward. Not a medal, not a trophy, it's a cookie. Right?
Yeah, and it's also, you know, like you say, it's almost like taking your foot off the gas, and it's so novel, like to just go into a restaurant and order from the menu.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so like, you just feel relaxed. You just feel like, you know, I haven't got to be on the Stairmaster today. I haven't got to lift weights, whatever. I haven't got to eat 200 grams of chicken with like 500 grams of potato or whatever. Like, yeah, I can just eat what I want off this menu. It's amazing. Like, yeah, it is an amazing feeling. It's just so like, it's just liberating almost. You feel free. It's and that's not, I don't think that's unhealthy. I think that's a healthy thing because it shows people discipline. You know what I mean? Like, it personally, me going through that prep, like whatever time like time frame it is, that I feel so like I've achieved something massive there. Like, other people, it's not an advantage to anyone else. It's just for you. Like, you're not anyone else, or you shouldn't be anyway. You should just be doing it for yourself. And if you're not doing it for yourself, then you probably most likely won't succeed, because, you know, that's my opinion. Like, you need to be doing it for yourself. If you're doing it for social media, if you're doing it for vanity reasons in social media, like, you might not get a certain amount of likes on a photo one time, and that will put your mind in a negative place. So you need to be doing it for yourself, 100%. So if you can go through that, like 12 weeks, whatever, of pure discipline and not going off plan once, that's a huge achievement. Like, that's massive. And most likely you'll probably win a show because you've not gone off plan once. You know what I mean? So yeah,
it's cathartic, isn't it? Like you said earlier, when you first win a show, that flood of emotion. Like, I don't know about you, but I find that every, like, all these snippets of getting up at 5 a.m. doing cardio, food prepping when you're literally hanging out your ass, not being able to walk up the stairs, it all goes through your mind, and you're like, and you collapse to the floor.
Yeah, massively. It's like it's just an overriding feeling. You almost don't hear anything. Like, you're like, I've done it. Like, you can't even think anything. Like, there's no thoughts there. You just sort of collapse in emotion. It's like, I've gone through this, and I've just got exactly what I wanted from it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no better feeling than that. You know? People are often, you know, there's a lot of things out there that can disappoint you. So if you're doing something for yourself, if you're working hard for 12 weeks, if you're disciplined for 12 weeks, you haven't disappointed yourself there. You know what I mean? Like, there's and you win that show, there's no better feeling because there's no disappointment there. Like, not one bit. And then everything after that just feels great. Like, everything. It just, you walk out of that show with your sword and you're like, I've got a sword. Like, this is amazing. And you just walk around with a massive smile on your face, and it's just, there's no better feeling. Like, you know, and it doesn't matter how small the federation is either. A win is a win. Like, it doesn't matter what federation is. It's just an insane feeling to know that you are the best on that stage. It's great.
Even like, so I've won shows and over the years, you know, got good placings, and then this year going into it like yourself with no expectations and still getting some placings, but it almost meant the same to me because I'm doing it for my own evolution, and I could see my physique had improved. It was like that same sort of feeling walking off stage and going, okay, well, I did my best and I wasn't what they were looking for. And I definitely feel like the undercurrent of today's pod of, you know, doing it for yourself with zero expectations is such a good message to get across to anyone.
Massively, because how many people in life do that these days? Not a lot. There's not a lot of people. And if we can encourage just one person to do that off of this podcast, like it is just the best feeling in the world. And like, because people don't do a lot of things for themselves these days. They're doing it for, like, I don't know, their kids or their partner or whatever. Like, they're cooking their dinner, or I don't know. That's just an example. But to really do something for yourself and just do that amount of time, like 3 or 4 months, just dedicated to yourself. Not a lot of people can do that these days. And it is a wicked feeling. Like, there's no better feeling.
Yeah. I also think as well, people that are doing a diet, and it might not be to step on stage. Like, I've come across so many people, especially in this prep. I don't know why so many, but a lot of people saying, I can't even last 2 weeks on a diet. How are you doing? Mine ended up being 7 months because I did back-to-back shows. But, it reminds you that actually, even to abstain to a diet day in, day out, if you're not stepping on stage, still being able to change your body composition and get some dramatic transformation, like, it's still so epic. But I think when you're in it, you don't realize how well you're doing.
No, you don't. When you're in it, you don't have a clue. Like, you're seeing yourself in the mirror every single day, because trust me, you will look at yourself every single day as hard as possible. So yeah, absolutely. Like, there's flexing going on left, right, and center. So you won't see that progress as such. So that's why obviously you got to take photos and stuff. But yeah, you definitely don't know your progress when you're in it. It's so hard to see that. But like, I mean, that's why I've taken a year off the last 12 months. So I like, you say, you loved placing. Like, that's what I loved about it, because I'd made that improvement myself. So I put on kg muscle over that year, and that for me is a win. Yeah, I mean, it helped that I won the overall at 2 Bros. Like, that was a massive, like, okay, I'm happy now. But those 2 pro shows I did, the Arnold's and the Amateur Olympia, they were, they weren't wins for me. Literally, I didn't come first, but they were wins for me in terms of just placing top 5 and knowing that I am at the sort of in the eyes of the judges. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm there. So I'm that close. Placing top 5 was my aim. And I was being realistic with myself. I was like, I don't think I'm going to win, because the caliber of guys I'm going to be against is just unreal. But if I can place top 5, I will walk out of that place with my head held high, and I will be happy as anything. And I did on both occasions. And it almost felt like a win for myself. Like, personally, that was a win. So there's so much you can take from just working hard. Like, I mean, that sounds so obvious, I know, but
yeah, it's sometimes good to remind people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, you often forget about yourself. Like, a lot of people, like I say, people focus on their kids, people focus on their partner, people focus on their work. There's lots of things they're thinking about other than themselves. So, and it's not selfish. That's what people have got to realize. So a lot of people will think it's selfish. It's not. Focusing on yourself and building your own mind and loving yourself and having that self-confidence is only going to take you further in life. All aspects. So that's going to take you further in your work. It's going to take you further with your partner, like, or knowing what relationship you want with someone.
Yeah.
It really does help. Like, if you can, it sounds stupid really, like, if you can go through 12 weeks of discipline and get into a show, then I believe that gives you such a strong mindset, and you sort of become the stronger person, and you know what you want, you know what you don't want. So yeah, I think if you're thinking of doing it, if you're on the fence, if you're not thinking you're good enough, you are good enough. Like, just do it. Like, don't and ahh it. You're not getting any younger, so just go and do it.
I love the, like, mental evolution working with people. When you see people, like, you're checking in with them, and there's certain points that clients will go, I can notice physique changes this week, and I'm like, on the check-in, I'm like, this is fucking gold. Like, I'm so happy you can notice it now, and how that person then feels about themselves and how much improvement across their whole life. It's just such a joy to see, isn't it?
Oh, massively. There's no better feeling. That's why I love being a coach.
Yeah.
It's like I get multiple messages from my clients that I've put on stage this year, just saying how much I've improved their mindset and how much they love what I've done for them and stuff. And it's just no better feeling. Like, it's just like they can, I've had a lot of clients recently just saying how happy they are. And just that, because some people came from a very unhappy place with themselves. And now it's the opposite. They're feeling, they're using the words like confident and happy. And it's like, I have helped someone become happy in life. Like, there's no better feeling than that. That you can, you can do as much as possible with work on yourself. But when you hire a coach, you get to share that with someone, like, and I'm just so grateful for everyone that does come to me and want my help, because I get to share that with them, like I get to share their happiness, and I get to congratulate them. I get to say, you have done it. Like, you have got yourself from A to B, without much struggle, to be honest, because people don't realize it's not that hard. it's not that hard. Like, all it is, in my opinion, is just moving more. These are for lifestyle clients, just to confirm. So lifestyle clients, it's just a case of moving more and tracking your calories. It's so simple, like, on the basic side of things. Yes, you have, things down the line that could affect people's weight or whatever, problems that maybe you don't think of initially that you have to sort of problem solve. But I think if people were to just sort of get onto tracking their calories and moving more, that is gonna just make them so much happier. Like, they're gonna lose the weight that they want to lose. They're gonna, fit into that dress, whatever, fit into those clothes they want to fit into. Lifestyle clients, I just find great to work with, because they've not come from that athletic background. They've not come from a competing background. They're just a normal, everyday, regular person working their job with their kids, whatever. And they are the people, I think, that, I don't know, they seem to be most surprised by their progress,
Yeah, it's
and when that's just a great feeling, because they're like, oh my god, I can't believe I feel like this. And it's like, people that compete don't necessarily feel like that because they're used to it, first time competitors and lifestyle clients, I feel, will have the most happiness and surprise. Almost, there's like nice surprise that you've actually managed to feel this way, and you've got yourself out of potentially a hole that you weren't happy in. And it's just this great feeling, especially like first time competitors. I can tell you from experience, it's a hard journey, but it is so worth it at the end. Like, really is. Like, I've put, the 3 I've put in this year were all first time competitors, and they absolutely loved every second of it. They absolutely loved competing, and it was just like, to share that with them was just unreal. Like, because it sort of brought me back to my first show, and I loved it. And it's like, I can share that feeling with someone now because they know how it feels. It's great.
You start like almost living life together, like I said earlier, like friends and family. There's clients that I'm working with at the moment to plan Christmas, and it's like, right, okay, so we're going to incorporate some off-plan days, and these are the things I want you to think about on these days, and then have like your Christmas dinner or whatever it may be. And you start getting excited with them to be able to embrace, different foods, different memories, and you become so close, and it's such a nice feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, my client Deck, he's he's finished his season now, so he was a first time competitor this year, and like he's taking December off. Okay, like we've decided that he'll have December off just to reset his mind and relax a little, enjoy his time with his friends and family. But because he's so disciplined, I can trust him with that. So I know, like, and I've just checked in with him this week. I'm like, mate, have you had an off-plan meal yet? What have you had? Like, it's just like, yeah, it just
Right.
gets it just gets like, you like you say, they become your family almost. Like you are, just because you are helping them so much with their life. It's almost, like a therapist. Like, I always say, I've always said PT is like cheap therapy.
Isn't it? Like, this is what my other half says. He's like, when I was a PT, I was literally a therapist, but on probably like a quarter of the pay.
100%. Like, yeah, the amount, I've listened to a lot of stories over the years of clients, like, and they just, they can feel they can talk to me, which is nice for me, because that means, I'm obviously an approachable person. They can talk to me and feel like they can trust me or whatever. Yeah. And that's a feeling, like, that's great. But yeah, I am an underpaid therapist.
And on the note of Christmas, what are your plans before you dive into your next prep? I must know before we wrap up.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. What am I doing? I don't know. I'm just gonna go to all the food markets before January, I think, and just just eat everything. I'm just gonna try it all, even though I don't feel the need to at the moment. But I know during prep that I will miss those foods.
I do this before a prep. I'm like, I'm gonna spend some time the last couple of weeks having palate experiences of different cuisines.
Yes, 100%. Like that's exactly what I'm going to do. Christmas dinner will be around mum and dad's, and I will be fully embracing that. But it's just, I just enjoy the Christmas dinner bit of it. I don't even enjoy the puddings. I'm so weird.
You weirdo. What's wrong with you? Well, actually, I don't like traditional Christmas puddings. Would have like some cheesecake or something.
I'm not a fan of like sugary things. It's like, give me a protein cookie, I'll be happy.
I mean, protein bars and protein cookies nowadays are bang. Like, I remember when they were like horrible.
Oh man, I remember, yeah, back in the day, I think it was like Metrics or something like that. Like, I'm talking 15 years ago. And I had a protein bar, and it was like a brick.
Yeah.
It was so bad. I was like, it tastes of, I don't even know what it tastes of. It's like, it's just shit. It's just horrible. So I'm glad that they've managed to improve the protein bar. Yeah.
Will you be having things like cheese and biscuits?
No, because I don't like it. I'm gonna get
I'm not that fussed about them, to be fair. Like, everyone has them in the evening, aren't I? And I'm like, I don't know if I want it. I don't know.
And do you know why? And this is like blasphemy. I'm not into cheese. I'm not really into cheese. Like,
Well,
yeah,
none.
Like, I don't know. I enjoy a bit of cheddar.
Yeah, I like cheddar and brie. Like, I don't like any of these funny ones.
Yeah, no funny ones. No funny ones. No, it's like, yeah, I love like a cheeseburger or whatever, but I won't sit there and eat cheese and biscuits. Like, it's weird.
Yeah, I've always found it weird.
Yeah, my dad loves it. He loves a bit of Stilton. I'm like, nah, mate, that's wrong. It's wrong. It's moldy.
Yeah. Love it. I'm looking forward to following your prep. And of course, if any of the listeners wanted to follow your journey or reach out about coaching, I'm assuming that you're taking on clients at the moment.
Yeah, taking on clients, taking on lifestyle clients, and people that want to compete. So both are welcome to message me, and we'll have a chat, we'll have a call, and yeah, just take it from there. It's Hunt Fitness Instagram. You'll put the link anyway, so yeah,
I'll put the link in the description. And of course, any of the listeners that have found this useful or want to share on their stories, absolutely love seeing it, because it's nice to know that people have listened and tuned in and what they've got from it. So both of our inboxes are open if anyone wants to get in touch. But thanks again for your time. It's been super cool. Lots of golden nuggets to share with the listeners.
You are welcome, Sarah. Yeah, it's been awesome. This is my first podcast, and like, I've loved it. I might just jump like,
you should do one when you're in prep, maybe. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Obviously it depends how you feel and whatever, but at some point it'd be cool to get you back on and just sort of talk about your journey through this prep and how that's been being a bit of a shorter one as well.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'll still be smiling. Like I'm always
I'm
smiling.
always smiling. You're
Yeah,
just dead inside.
yeah. I have no feelings or emotions inside, but I'm still smiling. I'm a shell of a human.
Thank you, mate. You're a legend.
All
And
right,
we will get you back on for number 2 in 2023. Have a sick Christmas.
you too. Thank you, Sarah. Nice
Thank
one.
you, mate. See you
All right.
later.